When we think of battles, our minds go to images of armies marching, nations clashing, and weapons drawn on fields of war. History books are filled with stories of great conflicts, where one side triumphed and the other fell. But what most of us overlook is that the most decisive war we will ever fight isn't written in history books. And it doesn't play out on national stages. It happens in silence, in solitude, in the unseen corners of our hearts and minds. It is the invisible war within, the war against ourselves. Every morning when we wake up, we enter a battlefield. The enemy isn't always someone else. The enemy is often our own thoughts, our own weaknesses, our own unhealed wounds. Some of us are at war with fear. Fear that paralyzes us from pursuing opportunities. Fear that whispers we aren't good enough. Fear that keeps us chained to the familiar, even when we know the familiar is killing us. Others are at war with anger, carrying old grudges like swords, ready to cut anyone who crosses the line, even when that anger poisons us more than it ever harms the person we're angry with. And then there are those at war with pride, a subtle enemy that convinces us we don't need help, that blinds us to our flaws, and that pushes away the very people who could walk with us toward healing. This war is invisible because no one else can see it directly. From the outside, you might look calm, composed, even successful. But inwardly, you may be exhausted from the daily fight just to keep your head above the waters of insecurity or temptation or shame. And the truth is, the fiercest wars are always the ones that no one else sees. Nations can crumble because of battles fought within their borders, but individuals can crumble because of battles fought within their souls. The reason this war is so dangerous is because it shapes every other battle we face. If we lose the inner war, we carry defeat into our relationships, our work, our purpose. If we live enslaved to anger, then anger will bleed into how we treat our families and our colleagues. If we live enslaved to fear, then fear will dictate the risks we take, the dreams we abandon, and the doors we never walk through. But if we win the war within, if we conquer ourselves, then no external force has the power to break us. Armies may come against you, but a person who has peace within cannot be shaken without. And yet most people avoid fighting this battle. Why? Because it is easier to point outward than inward. It's easier to blame the culture, the government, the economy, or the people around us than it is to face the uncomfortable truth that many of our struggles are rooted in our inability to master ourselves. It takes no courage to complain about the world. It takes incredible courage to confront your own heart. The philosopher Plato once said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. To be conquered by yourself is of all things the most shameful and vile." He was pointing to this invisible war. And what's remarkable is that long before modern psychology, thinkers understood this truth. The quality of your life is determined not by the battles outside of you, but by the battles inside of you. If you cannot govern your impulses will govern you. If you cannot direct your thoughts will direct you. And if you cannot discipline your spirit, then every distraction, every temptation, and every fleeting emotion will pull you off course. But here is the hope. This war can be won. Victory begins with awareness. You can't fight what you don't see. And once you recognize the enemy within, you can begin to confront it. Every time you choose patience instead of rage, you win a skirmish. Every time you choose discipline Instead of indulgence, you win another. Every time you choose to silence the voice of fear and move forward anyway, you take ground in this battle. These are not small victories. They are the kind of victories that reshape the entire course of your life. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't just prepare to face the world. Prepare to face yourself. Because the truth is, the world isn't your greatest obstacle. The mirror is. And once you learn to win there, the battles outside won't intimidate you nearly as much. The greatest battle is not with nations, but with ourselves. And when we win that war, we don't just survive. We live free, we live strong, and we live ready to take on whatever comes our way. One of the most dangerous enemies we will ever face in this inner war is not fear, not anger, not even temptation. It is self-deception. Because if you can't see the truth about yourself, you will never fight the right battles. And if you never fight the right battles, you will spend your life waging war against shadows, while the real enemy quietly grows stronger inside of you. Think about it. Nations fall when leaders deceive themselves. They overestimate their strength, underestimate their weaknesses, and surround themselves with voices that tell them only what they want to hear. Eventually, the truth catches up, and collapse becomes inevitable. But before nations ever deceive themselves, individuals do. And the collapse we see on a global stage often begins with the collapse of one person who refused to face the truth. Self-deception is subtle, which is what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't come to you waving a flag, announcing its presence. It whispers, "You're fine. You don't need to change. That's just how you are." It convinces you that your anger is justified, your bitterness is normal, your pride is simply confidence, and your unhealthy habits are harmless. It makes excuses feel like reasons and delays feel like wisdom. And before long, you've built an entire life on a foundation of lies you told yourself. That's why this enemy is so powerful. It robs you of accountability. If you convince yourself you don't have a problem, then you won't take steps to solve it. If you convince yourself the fault is always with others, then you never own your part. And if you convince yourself that change is unnecessary, then you will stay stuck, even while life keeps moving forward. Self-deception chains us to mediocrity while tricking us into believing we're free. But here's the irony deep down. Most people know when they're deceiving themselves. There's a quiet unease, a restlessness that refuses to be silenced. You may pretend you don't hear it, but the soul has a way of speaking. The longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes, until it shows up in stress, in broken relationships, in wasted years. The truth has a way of demanding to be acknowledged. You can resist it for a time, but you can't escape it forever. And that's why the battle against self-deception requires humility. Humility is not weakness. It is clarity. It is the courage to say, maybe I don't see everything clearly. Maybe I need to re-examine my assumptions. Maybe I've been lying to myself. That posture of honesty is the first crack in the armor of self-deception. And once the light of truth enters, the lies start to lose their power. But humility is not enough on its own. You need community. Because here's the truth. You can't always see yourself clearly. Just like you can't look at your own face without a mirror. You can't always recognize your blind spots without people who love you enough to tell you the truth. That's why isolation is so dangerous. Alone, it's easy to convince yourself that your excuses are valid and your perspective is flawless. But when you invite others in, when you open yourself to accountability, you create space for truth to break through deception. Of course, this is uncomfortable. No one enjoys being confronted, but confrontation is often the birthplace of transformation. A good friend, a mentor, a spiritual guide, someone who refuses to let you settle for less, can help you see what you've been unwilling to face. And when you finally face it, when you finally admit it, you give yourself the chance to change. Self-deception will tell you that confronting the truth will break you. But in reality, it's the opposite. Confronting the truth heals you. It liberates you. It removes the weight of living a double life, pretending outwardly while crumbling inwardly. The truth doesn't destroy, it rebuilds. It strips away the false so that the real can stand strong. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: what lies have I been living with? Where have I excused patterns that are destroying me? Where have I pointed fingers when I should have looked in the mirror? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because until you're willing to ask them, you will always remain your own greatest enemy. The invisible war within is not just about the obvious battles of fear or pride. It is about the hidden war of honesty. The day you stop lying to yourself is the day you begin to live in freedom. And when you live in freedom, you not only win the war inside, you change the way you fight every battle outside. The enemy of self-deception is powerful, but it is not invincible. You defeat it with humility, with accountability, and with relentless commitment to the truth. Because at the end of the day, it is better to face the pain of truth than to live comfortably in a lie. And here's the bottom line. If you can't be honest with yourself, you will never be victorious over yourself. But if you dare to face the truth, you will discover that the truth doesn't weaken you. It sets you free. Every one of us lives with a constant tug of war inside. On one side is the part of us that wants comfort, ease, and instant gratification. That's the flesh, the side that says, sleep in, take the shortcut, eat the junk, lash out when you're angry, feed the ego, indulge the impulse. On the other side is the part of us that calls for something higher, the spirit. That side says, do the hard work, keep your word, rise above your emotions, be disciplined, live with purpose. Honor the bigger picture instead of the moment. That conflict never goes away. If you're alive, you feel it. And if you're honest, you know how often the flesh wins. We cave to the path of least resistance because it feels easier. It gives us a quick hit of relief. But here's the truth: the flesh will always take from you more than it gives. Every time you feed it, it demands more. The flesh isn't satisfied. It's addicted. And the more you give into it, the weaker you become. The spirit, on the other hand, demands more up front. It asks you to sacrifice now, to resist the easy choice, to carry the weight. But unlike the flesh, the spirit pays you back with compound interest. The discipline you practice today gives you freedom tomorrow. The sacrifice you make now becomes strength later. The patience you choose today builds relationships that last a lifetime. The Spirit doesn't rob you. It invests in you. The battle between flesh and spirit is not about morality alone. It's about mastery. Who is in control of your life? Because if the flesh runs you, you will always be reactive, always chasing pleasure, always avoiding pain. That's not freedom. That's slavery disguised as freedom. True freedom comes when you master yourself, when your spirit dictates the direction and your flesh learns to follow. Think of it this way: the flesh is a child. It wants candy for breakfast. It wants to stay up all night. It wants to do what feels good right now. The spirit is the parent. It knows that giving into every craving is destructive. The spirit says no, sets boundaries, and enforces discipline. And here's the thing: if you let the child run the house, chaos is inevitable. But when the parent leads, the child eventually learns structure, and life flourishes. Modern psychology actually backs this up. Studies on self-control consistently show that people who master their impulses, delaying gratification, resisting distractions, choosing discipline over indulgence, tend to live healthier, happier, and more successful lives. Why? Because they're not slaves to the moment. They can see beyond it. They can endure the short-term discomfort for the long-term reward. That's the spirit winning the battle. But this isn't easy. There's no point pretending it is. Choosing spirit over flesh feels unnatural at first because the flesh screams louder. It wants immediate payoff, while the spirit whispers about future rewards. That's why so many people live stuck. They never train themselves to hear the whisper. They only respond to the scream. So how do you fight this battle? First, you have to acknowledge it exists. Don't lie to yourself and say, "That's just the way I am." No, that's just the way your flesh has trained you to be. Second, you start small. You win one battle at a time. Say no to the second slice of cake. Say yes to the extra hour of work when you feel like quitting. Hold your tongue when you want to lash out. Each small victory builds strength. Each choice you make in favor of spirit over flesh strengthens your ability to master yourself. And here's the beauty of it: you don't need to be perfect. You will lose some battles. That's part of the process. But if you keep showing up, if you keep choosing the spirit more often than not, you will notice something shift. The things that once controlled you will no longer have the same grip. The cravings, the impulses, the destructive patterns, they start to loosen their hold. And you begin to feel something powerful: freedom. The flesh promises freedom but delivers bondage. The spirit demands discipline but delivers freedom. That's the paradox. And once you taste the kind of freedom that comes from self-mastery, you won't want to go back, because nothing compares to knowing that you are in control, not your anger, not your cravings, not your insecurities. You. So ask yourself tonight, which one is leading you, the flesh or the spirit? Every choice you make casts a vote for one side or the other. Every decision either feeds the weakness or strengthens the warrior. You don't win this war in a single day, but you do win it one decision at a time. And here's the truth you can't ignore: if you let the flesh lead, it will eventually destroy you. But if you let the spirit lead, it will transform you. The question is simple: who's in charge of your life right now? Because at the end of the day, the greatest war is not fought out there. It's fought in here. And the side you feed the most is the side that wins. If the battle within begins in the heart, it's won or lost in the mind. The mind is the command center. Every decision, every reaction, every action begins with a thought. And that's where most people lose. Long before anything ever happens on the outside. They lose because they allow their minds to be hijacked by patterns of negativity, by fear-based thinking, by voices that tell them they are less than what they are capable of becoming. Here's the truth. Your life will always move in the direction of your dominant thoughts. If your thoughts are poisoned, your choices will be poisoned. If your thoughts are small, your actions will be small. If your thoughts are defeated, you'll live defeated even when opportunities are in front of you. That's why the mind is the most strategic battlefield. If you can control your thoughts, you can control your life. But if you don't, your mind will run wild and you'll become a prisoner to it. Think about how much energy we spend worrying. Worry is simply your imagination working against you. It's your mind creating scenarios of defeat before you've even stepped into the ring. That's why worry is so destructive. It makes you surrender before the fight even begins. The same is true of negative self-talk. How many times do people sabotage themselves by repeating, "I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'll never measure up." That loop, when played over and over, creates a cage you live inside of. The bars aren't real, but they might as well be, because they keep you from moving forward. And then there are limiting beliefs. The stories we tell ourselves that become our ceilings. Maybe you've heard them. People like me don't succeed. My family's always struggled. I'm not smart enough. I don't have what it takes. These aren't truths. They're lies dressed up as facts. And the danger of repeating lies to yourself is that eventually you believe them. Once you believe them, they shape how you act. And once they shape how you act, they shape who you become. But here's the good news: the mind can be trained. Just like a muscle. It grows stronger with discipline and consistency. It's not easy, but it's possible. You start by taking ownership of what you allow in. What are you feeding your mind? Because just like the body reflects the food you eat, your mind reflects the thoughts you consume. If you constantly flood your head with negativity, gossip, distraction, and noise, don't be surprised when your inner world is chaotic. But if you intentionally feed your mind with truth, wisdom, clarity, and vision, you begin to notice a shift. Training your mind also means paying attention to your inner dialogue. You have to challenge the thoughts that weaken you. When your mind says, "You can't," you respond, "Why not?" When it says, "You'll fail," you remind yourself that failure isn't the end, it's feedback. You don't just accept every thought as truth. You interrogate it, you put it on trial. And if it doesn't serve your growth, you don't let it stay. Now, this doesn't mean you pretend everything is positive when it's not. That's not strength. That's delusion. Training your mind is not about denying reality. It's about choosing perspective. It's about saying, "Yes, this is hard, but it's not impossible. Yes, I've failed, but I can learn and rise again. Yes, I feel fear, but fear will not decide my future." That shift in perspective doesn't eliminate the challenge, but it changes how you approach it. And the way you approach a challenge often determines whether you conquer it or it conquers you. The reality is, every major achievement in history, every breakthrough, every invention, every act of courage started in the mind. Someone had to imagine it before they could build it. Someone had to believe it before they could achieve it. The mind is the incubator of destiny. That's why mastering your thoughts is not optional. It's essential. But let me be clear. No one else can do this for you. You can't outsource the responsibility of your mind. People can encourage you. They can challenge you. They can teach you strategies. But at the end of the day, only you live inside your head. Only you decide what thoughts take root and which ones get cut off. That responsibility is yours alone. So ask yourself, what thoughts have I been entertaining that are holding me back? What beliefs have I allowed to settle in that are keeping me small? What lies am I repeating so often that I've mistaken them for truth? Until you confront those questions, your mind will continue to dictate your life without your permission. The greatest victories are not the ones that happen in public. They're the ones that happen in private, in the silence of your mind, when you choose to reject the thought that weakens you and embrace the one that strengthens you. That's the battle. And if you win there, you've already won everywhere else. So remember this, your thoughts are not harmless. They are building your life one by one. Guard them, shape them, master them. Because if you can conquer your mind, you can conquer anything.